Reserves. Gentleman from Texas.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. At this time, I would like to yield 5 minutes to the gentleman, brand new member of the Rules Committee, one of our 87 new Republican freshmen, the gentleman from Lawrenceville, Georgia, the gentleman, Congressman Woodall. 5 minutes.
Gentleman from Georgia is recognized for 5 minutes.
I very much thank my friend from Texas for yielding. It's true. I'm one of the new guys there on the Rules Committee, one of the new guys here in this Congress. And because I haven't been watching this process go on quite this closely before, I'm prepared to answer the question today of why are we here and why are we here doing this. For folks who don't watch the process, hadn't watched it, the rule is that we're working on today is to say you can bring up a bill in the Rules Committee and then bring that bill to the floor on the very same day, and that's unusual because regular order in this body says if you bring something up, let's let it sit overnight. Everybody has a chance to look at it. We'll bring it up the next day. I'm a big proponent of regular order. I believe we get the best work product out of this body when we work through regular order. And we've done that time and time and time again in this Congress, and we'll do it time and time again in the future. But today, we're faced with a predicament where August 2nd is looming on the horizon. Now, it's Friday. For folks who don't know, we're not going home tonight after work. Don't worry, Madam Speaker. As you know, this House is going to be in full swing tonight, tomorrow morning, tomorrow night, on Sunday, on Monday, to get America through this challenge. But my White House, my president, tells me that August 2nd is the day by which we must pass a bill. And here we are at the last hour to make that happen. Now, why are we at the last hour? That was a question my friend from Colorado asked, and I have the answer. Because we didn't actually start this process today. We didn't start it last night in the Rules Committee. We started this process back in February with H.R. 1, a bill to fund the government all the way through October 1st of this year. It was an open rule. For the first time in the history of this House of Representatives, it was an open rule on a continuing resolution. It took us 5 days, going day and night, 24 hours a day at the end, to get that bill discussed fully, because we all had input on that process. We all had things that we wanted to add, and this House passed that bill. It went across to our friends in the Senate, and they did nothing. Now, we had another shot at this in April, when we worked through the budget process. Now, that budget process, as you know, Madam Speaker, is supposed to take us through 10 years. 10 years. And we ask every member of this House of Representatives to bring their ideas to the floor. And the Rules Committee, in its wisdom, made every single budget that any member of this House offered available as a bill on the floor to consider. And we debated them all. There were some that raised taxes by $10 trillion. There are others that cut spending by $10 trillion. And all in between. And we debated them all, and the House decided on one. The House budget in April of this year. And we sent it to the Senate, and they did nothing. Now, in fairness, they did defeat that bill we sent to them. They defeated ours. We only got 40 votes on ours. Now, that was better. They worked on the president's budget over there. He got 0 votes on his. So they're good at defeating things, but they didn't pass anything at all. And that's the partnership we have to have. I say to my friend from Colorado, I'm so proud of our partnership in the Rules Committee, and really our partnership beyond the Rules Committee, too, on some of the issues that we work on here. If we could develop the kind of partnership with our friends in the Senate that we've been able to develop between ourselves here on the House side, it would be a completely different situation here in Washington, D.C. But even as part of that raucous freshman class that folks read about in the newspaper, Madam Speaker, I don't have the ability to control what goes on in the United States Senate. All I have the ability to do is come down here and participate in our process, which in February produced H.R. 1, which could have averted this crisis today. In April, produced the House budget, which could have averted this crisis today. And last week, produced cut, cap, and balance, which sent to the Senate, and they did nothing. could have averted this crisis yet again. But in light of all of those failures of action in the Senate, we are forced to come here today, and we don't have overnight to lay a bill over. We don't have 72 hours to lay a bill over. We only have 72 hours until my president tells me D-Day arrives for our financial markets. And so we're here supporting this rule for same-day consideration so that we can do whatever it takes to get the job done.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to extend the gentleman 2 additional minutes.
Gentleman is recognized for 2 additional minutes.
I very much thank the gentleman from Texas. We're going to do whatever it takes. But there's a teaching moment in this process, Madam Speaker. And maybe it's obvious to some of the senior members. Again, I'm one of the new guys, only 7 months on the job here in Congress. But what I've noticed this week is this. Last night, we tried to bring up a bill. Now, it was a bill that our Speaker and the Majority Leader of the Senate negotiated over last weekend. And we thought bringing that bill to the floor would be that compromise. And I promise you it was a compromise, because it was not what I wanted to bring to the floor of this House. We thought that compromise would be the solution to get America out of this situation. And we couldn't find... I'd be happy to yield to my friend.
The Majority Leader of the Senate has never at any time expressed support for this bill and actually opposes this bill, and I'll yield back to the gentleman to clarify that.
I thank my friend. There is lots of conversation in this town, but I maintain that this was the topic of discussion and agreement between the Speaker and the Majority Leader last week. And absolutely the Majority Leader's walked away from that agreement since then. I don't dispute that. But here's the thing. We had this agreement on the floor of the House last night, and we couldn't find one Democrat vote in favor of it. Now, fair enough. Folks ought to vote their conscience. They ought to do what they need to do. We couldn't find one Democrat vote in favor of it, and we've come back with a new bill today that moves us to the right. Moves us to the right. Now, as someone who comes from one of the most conservative districts in the country, I think that's fantastic. More moving to the right. Let's keep on moving. There's a lot more space over there. Let's move some more over to the right. But I say to my friends on the left, as we try to get through a crisis, a national crisis, we only needed a few votes from you last night, and this would have been a bipartisan bill. But instead, we're back down here today, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Colorado.
I'd like to yield